This is the best phone I have ever used. And if it isn't clear by now, I'm primarily an Apple user, as I daily drive an iPhone, I have an Apple Watch, and I edit these videos on a Mac. I am very deep into the walled garden, but that does not mean I'm against other tech. Except Windows. It can burn in hell where it belongs. I will die on that hill. But I have no issues with Android, and even owned an HTC One M8 and a Samsung S7 Edge back in the day. I didn't hate them, but I also didn't love them. And I ended up going back to the iPhone eventually. Now, I won't lie, the foldables nowadays make me actually consider switching again, but it's not enough to fully convince me, and honestly, it feels kind of gimmicky overall. One phone I didn't want to give up, and I even miss to this day, is the BlackBerry Z10. Now, just for fun, I bought this phone back in the day because it looked kind of intriguing. And let me tell you, this is the best phone I've ever owned because it is the best at what it does, being a phone. The BlackBerry Z10 was announced and released in 2014, and for context, the iPhone 5 was the current iPhone at the time when this was released. You can kind of see the form factor is very similar. This is not a 5, it's a 5S, but I kind of figure it's close enough. I don't own an actual 5. It actually looks kind of cheap in comparison when you put it next to the iPhone, but I feel like that's not out of the ordinary, especially for BlackBerry. It was definitely a function over form for them, and we'll get more into that as we go through the video. Now, the BlackBerry Z10 was one of the last BlackBerries to run its own in-house software. That was BlackBerry 10. It was one of the few on the market that was not running Android with a custom launcher. Now, BlackBerry did eventually fold and go the Android route with later phones, but we'll talk about that later in the video. Software aside, looking into the hardware of this phone, it touts a 1280 by 768 display. Not great for the time, especially compared to the iPhone's Retina, but it doesn't look bad, and it kind of held up well over the years. It's a 4.2 inch, comparing it to the iPhone 5. Again, pretty similar size. Front camera is a whopping 2 megapixels, can do 720p video capture. Speaker along the front has to be used as an actual phone. Along the side, 2 ports. You'll notice a micro USB for charging and data, and then a micro HDMI for some reason. This was just before USB-C started to really take off, where you could combine the two. But BlackBerry wanted to be nice and offer some way to output video, so they gave you, I believe that's a micro HDMI. Along the bottom, not too much exciting. There's no speaker or anything down here, no grills. Side buttons, you have your volume buttons, and then this is sort of like your personal assistant button. That was just starting to catch on at the time, was having this special button just for, actually, you know what? It's kind of compared to the modern iPhone, the action button. I believe you can program this to be whatever you want it to be. It's just personal assistant by default. On the top, you have your power button and headphone jack. Yes, we have not moved to the headphone jack on the bottom quite yet, like the iPhone 5 got. We were still rocking it on the top, just like the 4 and 4S at the time. Along the back, we're rocking an 8 megapixel camera along with a flash, and it can take up to 1080p video. Not bad for the time. Taking the back off, this is where things get really exciting because you have NFC built in. You'll notice the antenna along the back that connects with these 2 dots here. That was big. The iPhones didn't have NFC quite yet. You have a removable battery, I say yet again, SIM card reader, and an SD card slot. The built-in storage was 16 gigabytes. You could add up to 256 more with an SD card slot on the back. Incredible features that were lost to time, unfortunately, but boy, was it appreciated even back then. Another thing that's worth noting on the front of the phone, I just sent myself a text message to this phone so you can see. It actually has a LED on the front that's fully customizable. I have it set so that it blinks green when there's a missed text, but you can do red for missed call, or blue for you have email, or like a turquoise for a Twitter notification. That's awesome. And I missed that so much. Just a quick glance. You can just take a peek over and see that it's flashing green and, oh, I have a text. Always on displays kind of helped with that because you're able to just take a peek and actually see the notifications themselves. But the LED can be seen from anywhere. Phone across the room, it's blinking green. Oh, I have a missed text. That's so classic BlackBerry. Most of the old BlackBerries had that, and they carried this over into the Z10 to keep a lot of the modern features implemented into basically just an older BlackBerry. Now, this was one of the BlackBerries that was full touchscreen. That was kind of new for them. If you remember back in the day, they were pretty adamant that keyboards were still needed and that people doing business needed an actual keyboard. They started to kind of do away with that with the Z10, and the Q10 was released alongside it. It still had a full-size keyboard with a touchscreen, all that fun stuff, but this was their kind of concession to saying, oh, full screen might be the way to go. Yeah, you think by the time we're on the 5, we're actually going to full screen. BlackBerry was trying to keep up at this point. But kudos to them for at least acknowledging it and pushing it forward. Now that hardware is out of the way, let's go ahead and actually dive into using this phone. You'll notice there's no home button. And that's where we're going to already see how this phone was kind of ahead of its time, because to open it, you swipe up to unlock. Seems kind of familiar, doesn't it? Same thing when you're inside of an app. Do you want to guess how you get home without a home button? You swipe up to take you back home. Isn't that so familiar to where we are now? It's crazy to me how the iPhone 10 is when we got the swipe up to go home. Yet the iPhone 5 was out at the time when this BlackBerry came out and they introduced swipe up to go home. Now you'll notice when you go home, it doesn't actually take you to the apps like you would expect. It actually takes you to what BlackBerry considers their own home. This is your multitasking page, and this is where all of your apps go. Whenever you close them, it kind of takes it back to this home page, and they're all open and live. So you can actually close between any app and switch between the other, and they're all working live. As you go back, you can scroll through them. This is wild. I don't think my iPhone can even handle live switching like as well as the BlackBerry can. This is really, really cool. After you're done at home with your multitasking, if you swipe to the left, you'll notice your BlackBerry Hub. This is where everything kind of comes together. Your texts, BlackBerry messages, your email, anything that has a notification goes to your BlackBerry Hub. Now, the BlackBerry Hub is incredibly powerful. By going to the left, you can choose between the hub itself, priority notifications, BlackBerry Messenger, text messages, calls, emergency alerts. Everything gets kind of sorted through, and the hub is where it all comes together. Now, they're all combined into one. So if you want to respond to a text message, you just tap on the text, and boom, you're inside your texting app. You want to respond to an email? Tap the email, respond to the email, and go back to the BlackBerry Hub. Tap a phone call, respond to the phone call. You're kind of getting where I'm coming from. It's like a supercharged notification center. Notification Center just shows you where the notifications are and then takes you to the app you need to go to. The BlackBerry Hub, it's already there. All your apps are combined into one, and every notification's in one spot. And you can even add WhatsApp and other text messaging apps, and it's just all combined into one spot. It's so accessible that even from your apps, you just do 2 swipes to the left and you're within your BlackBerry Hub and you're responding to text or even composing texts or BBMs from one spot. It's all so fluid and it's all so put together, and it feels just like butter using this phone as a phone. Now, I mentioned BlackBerry Messenger. That is actually BlackBerry's version of iMessage. You created an account through BlackBerry ID, and other people with BlackBerries, yeah, of course, it would show up within BlackBerry Messenger. You can message each other. It's all end-to-end encrypted, read receipts, all that fun stuff. But with BlackBerry Messenger, they had an app available for Android and iOS. So you could actually have your friends, your family download BlackBerry Messenger and integrate all your texts within that. And then, of course, if they don't have BlackBerry Messenger or they have an iPhone, they still showed up within the hub just like any other text message. It was all in one spot. BlackBerry Messenger was incredibly powerful, and I loved using BlackBerry Messenger. And it's kind of evolved into iMessage now, but I still feel like because you're able to download apps to other platforms, it still has the upper edge even today. Now, while we're talking about text messaging like BlackBerry Messenger, we have to mention the keyboard. The best keyboard on a mobile phone I have ever used, and I can't wait to show you why. Jumping on into a text message to go to type on the keyboard, you'll notice it looks just kind of like any other smartphone keyboard. There's nothing too exciting about it until you start to type. It starts showing you the words that you could potentially type next. Do you want to guess how you type them? You just swipe up on the word. It's so fast. It's so intuitive. It's so fast. As you're typing, you literally just swipe up on the words that you want as they show up. I miss this so much. It is such a fluid way to text, and it just feels so natural that after moving from a BlackBerry back to iPhone, I have missed it every single day since. Apple really tried to tackle this by adding that row on top of the keyboard where you can tap the predictive text, but it does not feel anywhere near the same as actually swiping up on the words as you're typing. It's so fast. And like most keyboards, as you're typing, it actually learns what it is that you're trying to speak, and it learns words, and you can even put the words into that sort of like dictionary that it has. And as you're typing the word, it shows up like normal, and it just becomes such a great process. Like, this is just wonderful. I know on iOS and Android you can download third-party keyboards, and believe me, I have looked for this exact keyboard. Someone to please create this and bring it over to an iPhone or Android. It does not exist. Unfortunately, I have not found anything. I found things that are close, but typing like this, it's just so great. This doesn't exist on any modern phone, and I really think this was so underrated for the time. Anyone who may have used this phone will probably feel the same way I do. BlackBerry really did not want to lose the keyboard, and it's very clear they put a lot of care and attention into the keyboard of this phone because they wanted to make it so that losing the keyboard didn't feel as painful as it did when we went to an iPhone. I really think they hit the nail on the head with this, and I will so miss it. And I really hope that someday we can learn from it and actually bring it to modern phones. So now we're going to go from the best part and the highs of this phone to the drawbacks. Like everything, of course, there's going to be drawbacks, and this phone has some pretty big ones that are hard to look past. The one thing you're going to notice at first is a very shocking lack of apps. And that is a big issue with this phone. A lot of the apps that you see on the home screen right now, they're not actually apps. They're just bookmarks that take you to the browser with that specific website. That's depressing. And unfortunately, because it's BlackBerry 10, it's not Android. It does not support Android apps. Officially. You can sideload Android apps, including Google Play, but the optimization is incredibly poor. And they run really slow, they're really buggy, and it's clear they weren't designed to work on this phone. Now, there were apps from BlackBerry World. Those were the official first-party BlackBerry apps, and they ran like butter. They were awesome. There weren't very many, but the ones that were there, they worked great. And there was also the Amazon App Store. It was kind of hit or miss. Some of the apps would work with BlackBerry, others not so much. And the Amazon App Store isn't really renowned for being the best app store anyway. I think the biggest app that I had a really hard time moving past was the lack of Spotify. It had to be sideloaded and was not at all a smooth experience to use. It was very buggy. It crashed all the time. It would sometimes just freeze. I mean, scrolling, it would kind of like lag behind every single time. It did technically work, but it was just a terrible experience. And not having Spotify on a phone was really, really rough for the time. And I remember that being a driving factor in me saying, all right, I can't do this. But what you're going to notice is this phone is really good at being a phone. BlackBerry Hub, the multitasking as smooth as it is, BlackBerry Messenger, the keyboard. God, I love the keyboard. It makes it a communication device like no other. BlackBerry knew how to make a phone that could communicate in the most efficient ways possible that make even the iPhone just look barbaric, in my opinion. And it's really sad that it wasn't adopted as well as I think it should have been. It didn't sell that well. The people who did have them really loved them. But the lack of app support, the lack of people on BlackBerry Messenger, it was just kind of the lack of trying really made this phone fall flat. I think with some polish and some updates and a little more love, a little more power. I think the Z30 is a little more powerful, which probably helped with the side loading and Android apps. This phone would have just been so great. All the things that I mentioned could have been added and fixed, but unfortunately, BlackBerry gave up on the BlackBerry 10 dream pretty quickly and moved on to later BlackBerries being Android-based with a custom launcher. They didn't do very well because, well, it's just another Android phone. And all the things that were beautiful about BlackBerry 10 were gone. All the customization kind of came back and like, yeah, if you love Android, cool, good for you. You want all that. But it just ruined the BlackBerry experience. And that was my opinion. Other people may feel differently. But I think it's clear in the sales because BlackBerry doesn't make phones anymore. So probably didn't go too great. BlackBerry still exists though. They're doing specific apps for corporate and government, and they're just doing their own thing now with mainly software, which is clear they're really good at doing software. So I'm glad that they're continuing to do that. Ultimately, it's really too bad this phone didn't get the love it so rightfully deserved. There are still lessons and innovations from a phone, even as old as this one, that we could still implement and use today. And I hope we do at some point. And maybe we'll look back on this and figure out how to bring them to modern phones. And I would not complain about that at all.